Well, thank you so much for joining me and being my first guest ever as well. That's so lovely of you. I'm super excited to share you with everybody because I think
Oh,
we connected like a year ago, maybe on social media. And yeah, I just love the way that you motivate and inspire people through sort of interweaving your own personal journey into that as well, and just make it in like a really relatable way so that people connect to the message. So, and you've been such an amazing supporter of mine, so I really appreciate you.
oh, thank you. Thank you. You're awesome. I told you from day one that you are awesome. Everything about you from uh, just your approach to lows and highs of life, right? Those
Mm,
situations that we go through. I think you have great insight and observation. And not only that, but you give really, really good advice. So I read a ton of your stuff. So I was like, well, you know what? That was really good. Maybe I should use that for some of my clients. So
oh, I really
uh,
appreciate that. Yeah, I
yeah,
think
you're awesome.
sometimes when you're sharing, especially online, like sometimes it's, you're just putting it out into the void and you don't know where it's landing. So it's always nice when you hear that it is connecting on some in some way. So yeah, likewise for you.
Oh, thank
So
you. Awesome.
I would love for people who don't know you just to share a little bit, I guess, about your journey and the path that you took to be able to get to where you are now.
Oh, well, thank you. So first, my name is Christopher Ward Jr.,
Mm-hmm.
and I was born in Germany, actually. And my dad was in the military, and so we traveled a lot. And when your dad's in the military, one thing you learn is that you're not going to be in a place to you're gonna move often.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not gonna be able to really put your boots down, as they like to say, in a place and really get to know people. So I was able to appreciate the moments that I had with people, regardless of how long or short it was. And that would serve me well, of course, later in the future and my growth. And so I come from a loving family, but the experiences I went through as a kid with my family, um, my mother getting divorced to my dad because of physical and mental abuse, that was something that really shaped my viewpoint of what I wanted a family to really look like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was able to see that at such a young age where my dad, who was my hero, right? I'm named after him. So
Yeah.
this guy was my hero, and he quickly turned to my biggest villain
Mm.
because, I didn't want to be anything like him. And as you know, when they want to run away from things that are painful or they want to go away from negative things, they focus on being completely different from what they saw, but sometimes they end up focusing on being so different that they end up being the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want to focus on the negativity of what my father was. I wanted to focus on the positive opportunity of the man that I could become. And that made me smile more. That made me laugh more. That made me enjoy life more. Even though, my mom was a struggling single mom, she was an awesome woman. I mean, this lady was great. She worked for major companies in the tech field before women really were in the field, and she was one of the only women to work for companies like Chase, companies like Time Warner and Disney, and she would create these amazing projects and lead teams. That's what she did for a
Mm.
living. She led teams, and I watched this lady grow from a woman who was abused to a leader that led not only women but men.
Mm.
And that was something that was a seed planted into my childhood, which would, I guess, put me on this path of helping people become the best version of themselves.
Mm. That's so beautiful, and I love what you sort of said, and I resonate so much too. I guess some people either become a product of their environment and really fall into that pattern, or shift out of that and create something bigger for themselves because of that. They sort of use that as the catalyst for the change that they want to be. And I love that you focused on the positives of the possibility of what you could become rather than getting away from the negative, because like you said, you can sort of just attract that back into your life. One of the things I saw on your website was turning your greatest pain into your purpose, and I love that too. So I'd love you to expand on that, I guess. Like, what was that for you that was the catalyst for this?
Oh, thank you so much for that. You actually went to my website. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think we all share, regardless of our religion, regardless of our gender, regardless of our financial status, we all share one thing in common, and that is pain. We all have pain. Now, there are levels to it, but we all share that common pain of things that have tried to break us. And I would say, and I'll just share the story, my mother just recently, she passed away from cancer at the age of 49.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. She's in a better place. She's dancing. She's in a good place now. So I'm happy for her. But during that time of I'm graduating from school, I'm the kid that went to school and then dropped out, and then it took 10 years later to go back. That's me. Because I told her that I would complete that degree because of all the sacrifice that she made for me. It was a ton of sacrifice. So she was able to see me walk. She was able to hear her son graduate with honors, which is, I don't even know how that happened. And I was riding in the car with her, and I started to see she wasn't that vibrant woman that she usually is. And it looked like she was breaking down, but I didn't know the extent to it. So imagine a few weeks later, you just had this graduation, and a few weeks later, you're in this hospital. And as you're in this hospital, all you hear is we're doing tests. Something's up with her stomach. We don't necessarily know what's going on. And then 10 doctors walk in the room. 10. Never a good sign. Never a good sign. And they share with us that my mother was diagnosed with colon cancer, and that it was stage 4. Wow. And so being the guy that I am, I'm looking at them saying, okay, I'm a faithful man. I believe in healing. I believe in miraculous things because I've seen it all my life. Thank you for your expertise, and I'll just attend my mom. And my mom's a soldier. She, even during those times where she's literally decaying from the inside out, she's still sharing her passion of helping people become the best version of themselves. So she's talking about my plans of what we're going to be doing with the kids and what's going to be coming next. Make sure that you keep the family recipes in the family and transition them on and all these different things. And she's vibrant. And then every day her body just began to break down more and more and more. So it gets to the point where the doctor says, hey, you're probably going to have a few months with her, and then she's going to go. And so the first thing you would do, right? If someone said that you only had a few months with someone, what would you do?
Oh, just absolutely make the most of it. Whatever they wanted to do, I would do it all.
Exactly, right? You would try to figure out a plan of, here, we're going to go here, we're going to go skydiving if we can, whatever it is, we're going to do it.
Exactly, yeah.
We're going to do it, right?
Check everything off the bucket list. Everything
off that bucket list. And so that's what I started doing. Hey, we're gonna kick the bucket. We're gonna do everything, right? They came in the next day and they said, it's spreading a lot quicker than we thought. And so instead of having months with your mother, you probably only have a few weeks. So imagine that. This plan you had for the moment is now shattered. It's now shattered. Like life, right? We have these plans on how we're going to live our life. And then there's an experience that we go through that stops, right? Makes you hold your breath. And so my mom actually, I went home, and my mom actually, she actually died for a few seconds. And as I was on my way to the hospital, she woke back up. And by the
Wow.
time I got there, yeah, this lady's tough. I mean, whew, right? By the time I got there, she goes, I'm not, and this is her exact words, I'm not going out like that. I'm like, she's not going out like that? What?
Mm.
What? This lady is still fighting. The doctor
Yeah.
told her, you're going to die.
Mm.
But she said, I determine how I die. I'm not going to die helpless and broken. I'm going to die with victory, love, and passion. And so as we transition her to hospice, I have a group of people around me, family and friends that grew up with me, and we're just telling amazing stories of my mom and the great things she did. And then eventually I was able to see her take her last breath. And I know you've experienced something like this before.
Yeah.
Um, there are no words that can describe a mother's love.
No.
And there are no words that can describe when a mother's love, physical love, transitions. But I remember what she's been doing for our family since I was 7 years old. She would always ask me this question, weird question. If I died tomorrow, Chris, what would you do? I was 7 years old. This lady is crazy. What are you? I just want to
Yeah.
play outside. I want
Yeah.
to eat. I just want to have fun. But she was someone who always thought about the next step. And when she passed, I had to be strong, not only for everyone, but for myself. So I focused on the positive. And I cried, of course, tears, tons of tears, mainly in the shower because I didn't want anyone to hear me.
Yeah.
The shower is my safe place.
Yeah. All the best thoughts come in there as well.
Right? The best thoughts, right? So I'm crying in there, I'm crying, and then I just get a feeling in my heart that just says, I'm with you always. Every single moment I'm with you. But now, what are you going to do with that pain? You've just experienced something. What are you going to do with it? And all I kept hearing is, turn your pain into your biggest motivation. Turn your pain into your biggest motivation. So I just started helping people. I started coaching them. I started developing their skills. I started going to women that were single moms that maybe didn't have the opportunity to get the same resources or teachings or education my mother did. And I just started to help and help and help. And all of a sudden, big things happen.
Yeah.
So turning your pain into your biggest motivation is reaching deep into your core and realizing that experience is not just for you, but it's to go beyond you, to go help others be the best version of themselves.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And your mother sounds like an amazing woman. What a role model to have growing up.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
She would love you too. She would love you too.
Oh, thank you. It sounds like I would love her and get along with her really well too. Yeah, I can really definitely like resonate with that a lot. Obviously, you know a little bit about my story, but I lost my dad as well, but he was also a fighter. They gave him, well, they said he wouldn't make the night when he had his stroke, and he ended up living for 16 years after that. So he, yeah, just kept defying the odds. And I think when you are, I think, you know, that comes down to mindset. I think like he was the same as your mum, like I'm not going out yet, I've got things to achieve. This is my life, I determine when I go. So just sort of watching that and seeing the determination and that mind over matter, yeah, is a really, really amazing thing to witness. And this similar with you when I lost my dad, for me it was like a moment of like, you know, what am I doing with my life? Like it was just a huge moment when you lose somebody that's so close to you. It does change you, and it does sort of give you a perspective on life and sort of forces you to slow down and sort of take stock of where you're headed, what you're doing, what you want to do, what legacy you want to leave with your life. And for me, that was that moment, and that's sort of what was the beginning to my journey. And I was like, you know, I want more than this. I want to leave something behind that outlives me and, that makes an impact on others. And I think you can definitely use the lessons of someone else's life to impact yours as well. So it sounds like you've done that also.
See, that's why you're awesome. Look at that. What would you say is your biggest lesson that you may have learned from that experience, that painful experience?
Don't wait. My dad was very much work when he was younger. And his idea was that he would basically, build everything when he was younger, have the house, the car, the money, get it all. And when he had it all and he was able to retire, then he would enjoy his life. And when he got sick, he actually went bankrupt and we lost everything. So he had everything he'd built, he lost. And then he didn't even have his health. And then he didn't have the opportunity to enjoy his life when he retired because he never got the opportunity to do that too. So for me, it was definitely a moment of don't wait to live your life. There's no better time than now to do all the things that you want to do. There's just never going to be a better time. Don't hold off and think I'll do that later, because you just don't know what the future holds. There may not be a later, or you just don't know. So I think for me it was just a stop waiting and get in the game.
I like that. Stop waiting and get in the game. Yeah.
This year, I think for me particularly, it took me a while, I think, to sort of let that lesson land. But when it did, I think this year in particular, I definitely have stepped off the sidelines and into the game, because I think you learn on the field, not in the sidelines.
Yeah, that's sauce, as we like to say up here. That's sauce.
Mm-hmm.
It makes everything taste good when you understand you're in the game, instead of looking on the sideline. Yeah.
And I think that's something that people are, afraid to do, obviously, is to get in the game. When you are on the sidelines, it can appear difficult to sort of make that leap over and jump on the field. So what would you suggest to people if they are sort of in a transition stage, or they have a dream or vision, but they're not sort of sure how to execute it or to overcome their fear to actually begin?
That's a great question. So how do you see the vision, you see the dream, but you don't know how to start, right? That's always the hardest part, starting, right? The first step. I was just recently working with a client, and she is completely talented. I mean, skill set when it comes to working with young ladies and teenagers and developing their passion. She's really good at it, but she doesn't know how to do it for herself or create the organization that will allow her to be creative. And the first thing I shared with her is, just like I want to share with all of your audience out there, is that your identity, that is the essential part of making your vision and your dream happen. If you do not know who you are, you cannot give it to your dream or your vision. You may try to imitate someone else. You may try to be like someone that you've seen has success in their life, but you don't know what it took for them to get there, or the decisions that they made to get to that point. And your identity is crucial because it allows you to be a confident decision maker. That there's no regrets in the decision that you're making, because you know that it's getting closer and closer and closer to your vision. The other thing I would say is, as you're getting to know who you are and your identity, separate vision and goals, because those are two different things. Most people mistake their vision with their goals. And there's two terms I would love for people to really understand. The first term is terminal thinking. Terminal thinking is a concept where you create a goal, and though the goal is very good, you accomplish the goal, but it doesn't go anywhere once it's accomplished. The second term is relational thinking. Relational thinking is goals are created. As they are accomplished, they actually support the vision. And because it has a relationship with your vision, it begins to expand, and people begin to become influenced by what you're doing based on your vision. And so those two terms are very important. Terminal thinking, which has no relationship to your vision or your dreams, and relational thinking, which actually expands your dreams and your influence. That is all key to your identity. The next part is something that you know very well, which is passion.
Mm.
If you don't have internal motivation, it's not going to happen.
Mm.
You have to have that grit, that inside motivation that allows you to move forward when your circumstance seems bigger than your dream.
Mm.
That internal motivation allows you to say, you know what? My vision is actually bigger than this circumstance. So this shall pass. This will pass. And when it does, I'm going to use that painful experience for more motivation. And again, the influence, the vision begins to get bigger and bigger. And then the last thing is the purpose. If your purpose for your dream or vision is to become famous, it's probably going to fall very quickly, right?
Yeah, right.
But if your purpose is that internal conversation you have with yourself every single day that is not dictated by financial gain, is not dictated by social status, and it's not dictated by career status. Purpose is something that you can do even if the government in your country breaks down.
Yeah.
You can still have the purpose that supports the vision of your life. And so those are the three areas that I would say someone would need to help themselves get started, which is your identity, your passion, and your purpose. Once you know who you are, you make the decision to actually start. Once you understand your passion, you're motivated to find the resources to complete the goals that support the vision. And once you understand your purpose, when people say that you are completely crazy about what you're doing, you'll continue to say, thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think the identity thing is obviously a huge part of where people sort of get tripped up at the start, because I know for me, when you and I were really first connecting, I was going to America this time last year, literally today, a
Yeah.
year ago, I flew to America. So pretty crazy timing, I know.
Whoa.
And, I had basically gone there because I thought that I'd always had this feeling that there was something there for me. And even though it terrified me, I sort of took that leap. And I thought that what was there for me was to be able to stay there and live there and all that sort of stuff, because I've always had a special sort of pull towards America. So I thought that that's what that was, is that I was meant to live there. And, that's certainly not off the cards in the future. But what I ended up finding there, was myself, because I took the pause to really, reflect. And obviously my dad had passed away. There was a few big years there where I was supporting my mum, and then I took those 3 months for myself to really drop in and be like, who am I? What do I want? What do I want to achieve? What is my vision? Like, who am I to hold that vision? And having that pause to really reflect on my identity, I realized being surrounded, especially that American culture, is very much like success and anything's possible. And so I have a lot of friends over there that are living beautiful big dreams and killing it. And I was sort of looking at them and looking at me, and I realized that even though I wasn't exactly 100% sure of the vision, I knew that I was not the container to be able to hold what I wanted. So to come back home was then my next move, to actually focus on becoming the best version of myself. So I think sometimes, if people are not sure where to go, or even if they do have a vision, the first step is laying that foundation to really understand and know who you are and be really aligned with that as well. So I think if people are sort of at that starting point where maybe they don't have that foundation, what are some of the ways that they can build their identity or learn to know who they are?
Wow. I mean, that's awesome. You experienced all that in the 3 months you were here in America?
Yeah, it really changed my life. I'm going to do a whole other video on this, but I had the highs of watching my friends achieve their dreams and all of this beautiful, expansive, watching them just be the fullest version of themselves. And then I had a friend that was doing a lot of work down in Skid Row, and working with the houseless. And so I was also having experiences with him where that was where I started to connect with my mission as well. So I got the idea of how much work there was to do and how much I really wanted to step into being of service. And then also realizing that I wasn't the container to be able to hold that. So to come home, the biggest thing for me was investing in myself and stepping outside my comfort zone when I wasn't ready. I think that's the key. Like, you're never going to be ready, but you have to take that first step. And I think investing in yourself is the first step to saying, I am of value and I am enough to achieve what I want to achieve. It's that sort of that investment in yourself. And I think proving yourself wrong is so amazing, because for so long I had this limiting belief that I wasn't going to be able to achieve anything, or I had no purpose, or I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. In my head, I had no skill set, no gifts, no talents. And so I think having that ability to drop in and start investing in myself and taking the time to build that foundation allowed me to continue to step outside my comfort zone and really start to prove those beliefs wrong. And once you sort of do it once and do it twice, it's sort of, you start to think, oh, well, maybe that belief isn't right that I've held on to for all these years. Maybe I do, have skills and talents. And in recognizing that as well, in recognizing your skills and talents, because everybody does have beautiful skills, talents, gifts, and in recognizing them and believing that you're worth the investment, I think is like a beautiful first step for that foundation. But I do get a lot of questions like, how can I do that? Or I don't know what I want to do, or I'm lost with figuring out my passions. So what sort of advice do you normally give people around that?
I would always say, take a notebook everywhere that you go.
Or notes on your phone, no excuses.
Yeah, no excuses. Yeah. You have something where you can write down. There's a book called The Artist's Way. I believe it's called The Artist's Way. And I was reading two books at the time. It was The Artist's Way, and it was a book called The Element by Sir Ken Robinson. And I'll talk about The Element first. Sir Ken Robinson is an author who loves to look at education in a very different way. How we teach each other, how we educate each other has to be done different, because people are put in this box and their passion is being destroyed through every level of education, because they're not thinking about their passion. They're thinking more about their, as you said, their career and how it's going to look financially and how that's going to affect the family. And they lose part of themselves. And so most people have to go find themselves so that passion can come back. And Sir Ken Robinson talks about very, very famous people that were put in, that were not in the right environment, mentally, spiritually, physically, to be able to embrace, as you said, your self-worth and the things that you have to offer the world. Which leads to the next book, which is The Artist's Way. I love this book. This is a book that has allowed me to become a writer again. I think for about 8 years, I had writer's block, and that's a pretty long time. Yeah. I'm like, usually it's a week, but 8 years?
Yeah.
I couldn't write anything. I couldn't write anything. And this book was amazing because it told me how to bring up some of the things that were roadblocks in my passion and in my mind. And so I would write for an hour, anything. It didn't matter what it was, an hour. For the first hour I was writing, I remember writing, I have no idea what I'm writing. And I just kept writing.
Yeah.
And that page had to be like this big of, I have no idea what I'm writing. The next week I wrote again and I said, I miss writing. I miss writing about love. I miss writing about people. I miss writing about family and the places I will go, right? Third week, why don't we do something about it? I started having conversations with myself. What were some of the things that stop you from writing, Chris? I brought up old teachers that told me I wasn't good enough. or told me that I had potential, but I was a waste. And I started writing those things, and I said, wow, did I ever use those painful situations as motivation? Then the next week I talked about those painful situations. It was amazing. So as I'm going on this artist journey, right? I'm going on this journey of discovering the things that maybe have held me back or have taken away from my passion. The next part is I started to go to places that I don't normally go. And I just sat there and embraced. And so I went to a park where people walk their dogs. And I realized I haven't been around a pet that I had for a long time. I had a dog named Alec that passed away from cancer. And I realized that I never wanted to have another pet because of that. And I never dealt with that pain. So I sat in this dog park and I just watched the relationship that people had with their dogs. And all of a sudden I started to write. I started to write about love and relationships and how body language produces more than the words sometimes that we give off, just based on a relationship between a dog and its friend, right? Yeah. Walking. And every day I started writing. Then I realized that I had pages and pages and pages of writings. My passion to write again was there. And I had to stop thinking about what was in front of me or why I couldn't do it. And I had to think about those moments I had when I did do it. And so if you want to find that passion, you bring a book with you, you bring your phone with you, and you just be quiet. And you allow the world to tell you the different stories that are going on, and it will inspire you to find out your own story.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, there's such a power in observation, I think, and we're so busy and always on the go that we don't often take that time to just reflect. And I love what you said, let the world tell you, because there are clues and signs everywhere. And, you know, I think as well there's this amazing speech that Steve Jobs did where he said that you can always connect the dots looking backwards, but you can't connect them looking forwards. And I think that's often what we're trying to do is connect the dots forward. I think people get really caught up in that timeline as well and that pressure that they put on themselves for what they need to achieve by a certain age. And, you know, that is sort of like a societal norm, I think, that we've, you know, hopefully coming out of as well. I think, you know, there are more opportunities for us to step into that. But I think just allowing yourself to enjoy what you love and just like, you know, taking note of your passion, like you were just saying, that really just noticing what you like and trying so many different things as well. Like you're not locked into one thing anymore. And I think sometimes it's easy when you sort of do find what you want to do to then see how all those little things interconnect. Because for me, for ages, I knew that I liked this and that and the other thing, but I couldn't find the umbrella. And I think that just comes from, you know, stepping in the game and just trying new things. And eventually, you know, you get enough breadcrumbs and you take enough notice that you figure out what the umbrella it is to house all of your interests, because they do sort of interconnect, I think, if you do take the time, as you said, to sort of just stop and allow all of them to drop in.
That is well said. The breadcrumbs, right? Sometimes we want to get a steak, or if you like veggies, right? You want to get the yes, you want to get a tofu steak, and you don't realize that there is so much value in the small pieces. There's so much value in those little moments that build you up. And I learned this in fitness, that some of the best transformations to someone's body and mind and focus is doing the little exercises that people think are ridiculous. And those little exercises are exercises that actually develop the little muscles that actually support and make the other muscles bigger or tighter. And that blew me away because, you know, when you think you're going to the gym, you either got to run a lot, you know, if you want to get really skinny, you run a lot, or you want to get bigger, you lift so many heavy weights. And a friend he's a police officer and a pretty good bodybuilder actually. He shared with me, I saw him lifting these 10-pound weights, and I'm like, dude, you are too big to be lifting those small weights. And he goes, I want you to really watch what I'm doing. And he took his time. He was very slow in everything that he did to make sure that the technique was right. And it didn't matter what people were saying. It was all about the process. And so the little things in the process is what makes you prepared for when the passion turns into something like a career.
Mm. And I think, building that small muscle, that's what we're doing. It's not just in the gym. You work out your mind, you work out, the spirit, you work out the body, and it's doing those little things and making those little course corrections that sort of, every day is a gym sort of thing, and you're just building a muscle of resilience. So, I think a lot of people
Ooh.
take that sort of little setback and like, oh well, just wasn't meant to be. But that's part of the journey is taking those hits and continuing on anyway, and just knowing that you are building that muscle so that you are growing to be able to support the vision when it arrives. And that's sort of to link back to what I said before. Even though I didn't know my vision, I knew that I had a big dream of some description, and even though I didn't know what that was, I just knew that I needed to be the container. So when the idea made itself aware to me, that I was ready for it. So I think that just people stepping out and actually taking the risk and knowing that whatever they're doing or whatever they're learning and however they're growing within themselves, that it's all taking them to where they need to be and building them into the version of themselves that can hold whatever it is when that becomes apparent to them.
Definitely. Well said. That sounds like that's going to be the beginning of your next book, right?
My first book, yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
I love what you said as well about that sort of that whole process, I think, of, just starting and getting that writing out, even though you weren't 100% sure of where it was taking you. I think sometimes as well we get so blocked and we get so stuck that we don't even start. So it can just be something as simple as writing it out and, following your intuition, I think, as well. Like obviously that your intuition sort of led you to that park, and that's what sparked that sort of creative hit.
You're exactly right. I'll give you an example as well. Most people, when they look at CEOs, they look at people who run their own business. They believe they had this master business plan before the success came. Mm. And so when I work with clients like that, the first thing we do is we look at their business plan and we actually rip it up.
Great.
We rip it up because I share with all the CEOs that I work with. I say, you know what? We're gonna work in the unexpected. Mm. That's where your success is gonna come, in the unexpected, because there's already a blueprint to how business works or how relationships work. And so we got to see the unexpected. What happens when the plan doesn't work? That's where the growth is. That's where the new ideas come from. That's where the next level for your business is going to go. And it's the same thing for our personal lives, that if we want the edge, if we want the encouragement, if we want to be equipped to move forward in our passion and in our dreams and our vision, we have to work in the unexpected, because when the unexpected comes, you're not prepared for it. And the only thing you can do is you have to react to it. You have to be able to say, am I going to go forward or am I going to go backwards? Mm. Am I going to be in or am I going to be out? And when you come to that crossroad, oh man, and you say yes to it, great things are going to happen. Mm. Because you're moving forward, you're growing. Mm. It wasn't planned. You don't even have the right tools for it. It's okay. You're going to figure out. You may make the right tools. Who knows? But you're going to find that you're going to come to these crossroads in your life where you're going to have to ask yourself, am I going to be 100% in or 100% out? And that's where that strong decision making of knowing who you are comes in.
Mm. I love that you said that in the unknown as well, because I think, we know what we know what we don't know, but we don't know what we don't know. And I think it's that unexpected area and, past our edges, past the edges of our comfort zone that we really struggle to step into. But that's obviously where the most growth is. And it's, just about sort of stepping past that line and having fun, kind of just leaning into your edges and knowing where they are and just pushing past them anyway. Because, it's pushing past into the unknown or pushing past your comfort zone is never going to be comfortable. That's why it's called a comfort zone. And I think, even for me, like, video and all of those sort of things is an edge for me. So I'm sort of stepping out into that and before I'm ready. So I think that, having that sort of sense of joy about leaning into your edges is super important as well. And knowing that on the other side of that is the next version of yourself and the highest version of yourself. And, you're always going to come up against those edges with each level up. And I think sometimes that can stop people from taking that next step, because what was once their edge is now their comfort zone. And it's just sort of that continual process of finding your edge, leaning past it, finding your edge, leaning past it. But there's never going to be a time when you've got it all figured out or you're 100% ready to step into that.
That's a great word, because, leaning into your edges, I love that. Keep using that. That's awesome. Leaning into your edges is all about saying it's not about perfection. It's about producing.
Yeah.
It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's not about perfection. It's about determination. And when you're leaning on the edge, I mean, if you don't have those things, you'll fall off. And so those are great. I mean, that's a great word right there. I think you could probably teach a whole a seminar on that. It's just leaning into your edges and challenging people to first reveal what their edges are, and then saying, okay, I'm going to approach it, but you don't have to do it alone. That's the best. You never have to do it alone. We have, I mean, you're saying, this video thing is an edge for you, but you are such a natural. Like, this is natural for you. You look amazing on here. You sound amazing. You're encouraging me right now to do more video, honestly.
Yeah, really? Because I find the same about you. I just think that you're like so grounded and just connected. And yeah, this is definitely I feel like a comfort zone for you is the video.
If you could see half the videos I've deleted.
Yeah.
My friends who are YouTubers, they would say, Chris, you just put out content, man. Don't worry about what it looks like. There's people out there that want to hear what you have to say, even if they don't know you.
Exactly.
And they like blew me away. I'm like, me? Like, yeah, man. There are things out there. There are people out there that want to hear you. And I started to do more research on it. I believe that there's a group of people for everyone. That's in business, it would be your target market. But in your lifestyle, it's a group of people that we are here to serve. Yeah. With our gift. And whether it be your writing or your speech or your video content or just your personality, whatever it is, I think everyone has a group that they're here to serve. And
I actually heard last week something that's so apparent, but it was so profound to me in the moment, that they're called a gift for a reason, because it's meant to be shared. And I think that there's never going to be another you that can deliver the information and the medicine that you have on your heart in the exact way that you can do it. And you're not going to be for everybody, and that's okay, because you will be for the people that are meant for you. So I think exactly like what you just said, just get it out there. And perfectionism is huge for me as well. And it stopped me from doing so many things in the past, because I'm like, I need to make sure that this is ready and I've got the website looking good and like all this sort of stuff. So for me, this year I've just sort of been trying to ship it before it's ready. Like, it will be ready enough, because you're your own worst critic when it comes to that. I follow Gary V online, and he's just so funny, because he just serves it as it is, but he's just sort of like, stop wasting your time on aesthetics that no one else fucking cares about. Like, they don't. Only you're worried about what your Instagram feed looks like. No one else cares. They just want the message that you've got. So I think that if people can just, whatever it is on their heart, that medicine that everyone has, like, that thing that keeps coming up that's calling them forward, like, we get to share that.
That's big. It's funny that you said Gary Vee. I was just listening to him on Friday, and he's a New Jersey guy, so I'm always supporting New Jersey guys, and ladies. I'm always big on that. But instead of looking at his new content, I actually went to some of his first videos on Facebook,
Mm.
and which were like 8 years ago. And I mean, it was these grainy, crazy videos with his hair all in his face. He looked crazy. I mean, it
Yeah.
was, but the one thing I learned was that he was so passionate about giving you the content that he believed to be true,
Mm.
that you would always find value in whatever he was talking about, regardless of what the video looked like. And I decided that day that I'm just going to continue to produce content, because if I want to accomplish some of the vision that I feel is there for me, it's not going to happen by me always trying to prep the cake. Eventually, I have to put it in the oven to see if it tastes good,
Yeah,
or if it
exactly.
even rises at all, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I'm realizing more and more that unless you're willing to put the ingredients that you already have to see what you can make, you'll never know what else you need.
Mm.
And so Gary Vee helped me on that Friday. I just told myself, you know what? Whatever I have, I will give.
Yeah.
And when I have more, I'll give more.
And it comes from practice as well. I think it's just, you could read about it or learn about it or think about it as much as you want to, but it's, you don't have to put every single video out, but it's just about getting in front of the camera and practicing. Like, I think we so often look at people like that are the end product. They've been doing it for years, and we forget that they started in the same place as us. So, that vision that we see in those people that we look up to, and we're like, oh man, I could just never do it like them. And, or there's so many other people already doing it so well, so there's no point for me to start. I think we all forget that we all come from humble beginnings, and that they've gotten to where they are just from being in the game and by putting consistent content out and by delivering and putting their message out consistently. I think consistency is key as well, and just leaning into that edge again.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, I have a question for you. So,
Interviewing
you
getting
know,
flipped.
oh, so consistency, you said.
Mm.
If you were going to give someone advice right now on how to build consistency, what would you say to them?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I think a lot of that comes down to habit and mindset. I think that habits are so deeply ingrained, and that mindset that we have around the way we've always done things is so deeply ingrained. We've been driving on a road so often that we forget that if we want to go the new direction, we look into the field and it's full of grass, and there's no road and we can't see the way. So it's about forming a new pathway and a new choice and a new set of empowering decisions that enables you to do that. So I think it's just pretty much about scheduling it in and just holding yourself accountable, or finding an accountability buddy. Like what you said before, you don't have to do it alone. Having people around you that are like-minded and can support your vision and are doing the same thing as you, to have that accountability to push you forward and say, hey, you said you were going to release a video today. Where is it, sort of thing. So it's that having that accountability buddy while you're forming that pattern as well. And if you can do it alone, that's awesome. But I personally love having that accountability of other people. If you share as well that you're going to do something publicly, most people have that integrity that they don't want to let other people down as well. It's easy to sort of, I think, sometimes just like quietly let yourself down. But, when you've made it known that, I'm going to do video for the next 30 days and you've put it out there, then you're accountable for that decision as well. So definitely, I think accountability to form a new habit, to actually start getting in the rhythm of pursuing your dream.
Wow, I think you answered the other part of the question on how to get started. What's the first step, right?
Yeah.
That consistency, putting billboard material out there so that if you're not going to hold yourself accountable, at least a group of people will.
Yeah.
And
Finding the right people as well, I think, is huge. I think quite often, especially in the beginnings of getting your vision off the ground, we quite often want to share with people who maybe are committed to misunderstanding us. And that can also, I think, then trigger those stories of why you didn't start to begin with, which is that, oh, maybe it is a crazy idea. Maybe I'm not good enough to achieve that. Maybe that's not a secure enough choice. So deciding who you share the intimate details of your dream with is hugely important, especially when you're first starting out. I think take the opinions and advice of people who are on the same path as you, maybe a few steps down the line, because they'll tell you your dream's not crazy because they're living it. So that's
Very true.
that's huge. So I think just looping back to what I said before about changing your mindset, change your life is huge, and that's certainly been something that I've really leaned into this year, is coming in, like the habits, creating the daily rituals to really support a new set of empowering beliefs and slowly letting go of the old ones that were holding me back. And I think that's sort of a great place for people to start as well. Like we were talking about building your identity, sometimes you have to shed your old one to do that. So what would you say to people, or what advice would you give them to step into a more growth mindset rather than those sort of limiting belief or being stagnant? So how can they support themselves to changing their beliefs? Because that's a question I get quite a bit when I say, online, I'm like, change your perception, change your world, and people are like, but how?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, great question, by the way. I would say there's something that I've been doing this year that has, I would say, allowed me to go into spaces that I would have never been able to go before. And that is saying no to good things so that I can say yes to great things.
Amazing. Love that.
Yeah, saying no to good things so that I can say yes to great things. And as you said earlier, it's easy to be in your comfort zone. And usually in your comfort zone, that's where good things are. But the great things are things that make you feel a little uncomfortable, not knowing how successful you may be at it. And an example is I was offered an opportunity to talk to 50 financial professionals in the state of New Jersey. And I was going to be their guest motivational speaker for the day. And before I would go on, someone who worked for the FBI would be one of the speakers.
Wow.
And so I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I'm just a guy who, that just loves to inspire people. This guy has traveled the world and worked in government, and he's going to have some great things to say. And you want me to follow him? Okay. I'll think about it.
Yeah.
And I almost said, passed on it. But I said, you know what? Let me say something. Let me do this. This is a great, not only opportunity to speak, but a great opportunity to learn from others, people who are at the top level of their industry. You can always learn from someone. And so I get to this speaking engagement, and the guy in the suit, he's done finishing his strong presentation, and here I am with my nice little hat I brought in, and all of a sudden I was there, and I felt like I was in the right place at the right moment at the right time. And everything just flowed. And as it flowed, I had people coming up to me saying, you don't know what you did for me today.
Wow.
I was thinking that I was wasting my time at my job, but I just needed to change my mindset on the resources and the environment that I was in and how I can make an impact in someone's life. I want to say thank you. You did that for me today. One person after another just kept shaking my hand, taking photos with me, pictures and this and that. And I'm like, I almost said no to this. So to answer your question, they have to be willing to say no to good things so they can say yes to great things, the things that will scare them, the things that they feel like they're not ready for. Because if they feel like they're not ready for it, they're not going to try to go in it alone. They're going to go to others to get the support. They're going to go to others to get the accountability. They're going to go to others to grow so that they bring out the best version of themselves. And once you taste that once, it's like tasting a great wine over a great dinner. You're always going to go to the great wine when you're having that food because it brings out the best flavor in the food. And so I feel that in our life, when we continue to say yes to great things, and be okay with saying no to good things, it allows us to grow in such a way that our mind just completely shifts on how we think about the world and ourselves.
And it's like I said earlier about proving yourself wrong. Like that's a situation where you thought you weren't ready, or maybe you weren't good enough to do that. But by saying yes to that opportunity, that proved to yourself and created a new belief that you are worth that and that you are able to deliver and hold yourself to that standard. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, excellence, right? Why, if you're going to do it in excellence, because what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
What they boo you? Okay, you learn from it, right? What's the worst that can happen? So excellence. If you're striving for excellence and you're putting your best foot forward, it's always going to come out great. It is.
Yeah. If you had one lesson that you've learned that you would want to leave as your legacy, what would it be?
That you're not a mistake. That you're made with purpose. That you're made with greatness. You're made with passion. You're made with love and dedication. You didn't just pop up by some chance. You were designed in such a way that you have everything you need. You have everything you need to be great. And if you just allow yourself to see the greatness in you, man, how it's going to change your circumstance, how it's going to change your environment. Just know that you're loved, you're cared for, because there are groups of people out there that are waiting for you to bring your gift and your talent, and they're going to give you that love. But most importantly, that you have purpose. I mean, there's so many people that walk around, though they have great jobs and great families and financial status, they feel like they have no purpose in life. And the reason I say that is I did a talk at a high school. Kid has straight A's. Kid is super talented. And he said, what's the point? What's the point of going to college? Yeah, I have straight A's in high school, but what's the point of going to college? It doesn't matter anyway. There's no purpose. And when we got down to the nitty gritty, he had lost his brother. He had lost his brother. And because he had lost his brother, he felt like, where was his place in life? Where was his place in life? And like you said before, self-worth and self-value is so important. And you can see that he didn't love himself. And because he didn't love himself, he couldn't love others because he couldn't give what he didn't have. And when you lose purpose, you actually hinder all of the success that is waiting for you. And so I would say that's one of the biggest lessons I learned, is that my mother every day would say, I gave you your name for a reason. Your name has meaning. And once you figure out what your name means and the direction it will take you, give it all. Give it all. And what she was telling me is that I have purpose in life. So what? I went through some hurtful times and some broken experiences, but it's not bigger than my purpose. It's not bigger than who I am. And so that's advice that I would give to anyone, because you don't need money for that.
No.
You don't. Yeah.
Finding that why that's bigger than you is huge, because it will get you through anything.
Exactly. Your why, man, your why is so important, because, I hear a lot of people in these different seminars that talk about their why, but they forget to talk about the vision, because the why and the vision have to agree. If they don't agree, that means you're actually working for someone else's vision. So an example is, I have friends from grew up in Egypt, in different places, and their identity is in their community. So when you're in the community and you are becoming successful, the community becomes successful. Here in the West, in America, the individual becomes successful, and that's it. It's not that you're representing anything. It's just you. And so what I learned from my mom, having that mindset of you represent us, that even when you pass on, when you give that gift to someone else, they will remember to represent the whole, not just the individual. And so that's where that purpose comes in, that it's not just for you, but it's for all those who came before you and all those who will come after you. And that's what we call legacy.
And having something that I think as well, like you saying that especially in the American culture, it's about your identity and that's it. I think sometimes for other people, it's about making everybody else happy as well. So I think that sort of those two concepts interlink, where you find your own identity and your own alignment and be strong and comfortable within yourself and find your own power and claim that because you are worthy, and then filling your own cup up. And then the point is that you have the overflow to give to others. Like, it doesn't end with you. No matter what your vision is, it should always have a flow-on effect to others and to uplift others in a powerful way.
That's awesome. I think they said, I was studying one time how a river is created or something of that sort, and it talks about rocks crushing into each other, and as those rocks crush into each other, a stream is built, and that stream turns into something else, into something else, into something else, and it's like, that's our life, right? Those moments that we didn't even know was going to create and shape who we are today had purpose. It wasn't by coincidence. It had purpose, because you and I are talking right now. You and I are talking. This is crazy, right?
I know,
think about it.
technology's awesome.
It's awesome, right? The technology that is created, the time that we're going in, the experiences that we've experienced, and now the encouragement that we're giving others has connected us together. I have a lifelong friend.
Likewise.
And so that's the great thing about purpose, is that it creates relationships that you couldn't create on your own.
Exactly. It brings the right people into your life, that's for sure. I love the water analogy that you just used, actually, because it's so powerful. I had like a little aha moment when I was doing the bridge experience last weekend, which was that, water really gives zero fucks. It will find a way from no way. It will go around, it will go over, whatever it needs to do to get where it's going. It will just allow and just continue on. And I think we are mostly water. We are designed to do the same thing. So we're literally like made out of stars and water. Like, we are here to do some big things, and we get to honor that about ourselves.
That's sweet. I love it. I'm going to use that too.
So I think like sometimes, when people are really heavy in the space of not knowing, and sometimes it can feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And, my entire 20s, I had no idea what I wanted to do, like, at all, really got stuck into, almost, emotional depression, where I really thought I had no purpose, had no idea, like I said, I refused to acknowledge any skills, talents, anything that I had. And I developed such a deep undercurrent of limiting beliefs. And, I think sometimes when you find your way out the other side, there's so much empowerment in that. But I would love for you to share for the people that are really in that space right now and are struggling to acknowledge their gifts or see a way out. What would you recommend for them to do on a daily basis in order to help them on that path to finding out?
Wow. That's amazing, because even someone who is an encourager, someone who brings inspiration, goes through those points. And for the last 3 months, I was experiencing that. I was experiencing not a depression where I felt sad, but a depression where I felt stuck. I felt like I couldn't move. And I felt like I knew my gifts, I knew my skill sets, I knew what I could do, but it wasn't moving. And it would zap my energy. And as it zapped my energy, it zapped the way I treated people and the relationships and how I even treated myself. And then something happens. Something happens when you learn to live beyond yourself. You start to find the tools that you need to move forward. And so those who are experiencing the struggle right now about their gifts and their talents and how do they step forward, learn to live beyond yourself. See, Mother Teresa, I actually met a person who became a good friend, who was able to do work with Mother Teresa.
Wow.
And well, I know, right? The people I get to meet is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know how I meet these people, but he has an organization, a nonprofit organization in Philadelphia, where he lives with the homeless, and he understands what they go through, and he finds out what their needs are, and he fights on their behalf for political change, whatever is needed. He's done so many great things to the point where now there's a organic garden type ecosystem thing in the heart of Philadelphia, the city, where they're getting organic fruits and vegetables so that the homeless can have nutrition while they're still on the streets.
Beautiful.
And I said, where did you come up with an idea like that? And he said his time with Mother Teresa was very awakening. You know, he was a college student at the time, and he just jumped on the plane. He didn't really know what he was going to do. He just said, I'm going to go help Mother Teresa. And as he was in India and he's watching how all of these orphans have no shoes, and Mother Teresa would set up a program where new shoes would come in. And he watched it, and it looked like some normal stuff. But then there was one time where there wasn't enough shoes, and there was one kid left, and he didn't have shoes at all. And what he watched Mother Teresa do is take off her own shoes and put it on the little boy. Then when he watched her feet, he realized that her feet was crumbled and broken and it's just rough. And as he began to look at it, he asked one of the people that had worked with her for a while, he said, why does her feet look like that? He said whenever Mother Teresa would see that someone was in need of shoes, she would always give her own so that she could walk and understand and feel what they're going through, so that it would continue to allow her to go on and not get comfortable or not and always be sensitive to the work that she's doing. So that's the advice I would give someone that is concerned about their gifts or their talents. Live beyond yourself. Think about the people that you're going to serve and the experiences that they're going through, and allow your natural talent and gifts to work it out.
Yeah, that's so perfect. I love that. And I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I think, especially in today's sort of world where there's that real, the world is collapsing, there's no point, we're all going to, blow up by next year, that sort of, real doomsday mentality that the, mass media really supports. I think people can get quite disheartened in how they can be of service and how they can help in an everyday capacity, because sometimes I think, people think if I'm not, serving in a big mission way, then there's no way that I can help. So I think, I've always been a huge advocate for making small everyday change. There's so many things that we can do to make an impact on other people's lives, even if it's just offering a smile, a hello, a high five, a free coffee, like whatever it is in those sort of small ways, like be the reminder that good things are possible. Like that's, something that I sort of really live by is, if you can't see anyone that sort of embodies what you hope to see in the world, be that yourself.
Yes, that's very important. One of the things you can do, if you have a passion to speak, or you have a passion to be a public speaker, go to a elderly home, a senior citizen's home if you can, and listen. You'd be surprised how many elderly are left in those places, and they feel like they have no one to talk to. And the stories they will tell you that will bring value to your life. And there was when my mom went through her stroke before the cancer, she had a lady in there that would always call my mother a butterfly. Would always call her a butterfly. And one day I sat down with her, just no one around. I said, I just asked her about her life, and she shared her little things as a little girl, and she loved butterflies. And I said, well, why do you call my mom a butterfly? And she said, you don't see the light, do you? Do you see the light that's around your mother? she's the butterfly to this place. She's the butterfly to me to make me want to continue to go on. And I'm like, whoa. Here I am in here saying, I want to get my mom out of this rehab center because of the stroke. And she's being a butterfly and hope to other people. So you want to find your way past that struggle, that wall that's hindering you from moving forward. Go beyond yourself.
That's so beautiful and so powerful. And I think, sometimes, exactly like what you just said, like with your mum, like we sometimes find ourselves in situations that don't make sense, but we're never somewhere by mistake. Wherever you are, there's a reason for that. And you don't know the reason, that could be so powerful for you being in that exact spot at that exact time, for the impact that you'll have on those around you, even if it doesn't make sense to you.
Exactly. Well said. I couldn't say it any better.
I think you did just before, but that's fine. Yeah, I love that so much, because I think as well, like something that someone asked me the other day was, how do I beat the dip? And
okay, tell me what this is.
So we just did this program last weekend. It was this 2-day program, and obviously you leave on a high. And someone, knowing that I had done the program, they were like, how would you, like, what advice would you give for beating the dip? That will, I don't want to get to the dip, because we get so hooked on feeling the high. And I know that when I did the program back in March, which is sort of the catalyst to this whole path that I've been on, and what was the confirmation that I was on the right track, I was on the high, and I did not want to get off the high. I thought I'd cured my humanity. I was like, yes, I feel good every day. This is amazing. I'm never going back. But then the dip eventually did come. And, I really beat myself up for that. But after I got out of the dip and I was on the high again, I realized that that is just all part of the journey. It's peaks and valleys. You can't escape the valley. Like, there is amazing power in that space as well, if you learn to love both. And I think as well, like, a lot of the times people get to the peak of the mountain and they're holding on. They're like, no, I'm great, I'm good, I'm staying here, this is great, I've achieved everything. But we have to go down the other side as well, and then we reflect and learn. So it's basically like lessons, mastery, lessons, mastery. So I think if you're in a dip at the moment, just know that there's an empowerment that comes from that place as well, and you're just in the lesson phase, so that you can climb the mountain to mastery of whatever it is for that next step for you, right?
Yes, definitely. You said that that was a great terminology and great imagery, because if you think about a mountain, right, once you're on top of the mountain, you're no valley good. You can't help the valley. So you have to actually go back down to help people in the valley to get back up to the mountain.
Yeah.
And that's a mindset of saying, again, you're going beyond yourself. Because if you get at the mountaintop and you just say, I want to stay at the mountain, this is a great place to be, it may get lonely up there.
Yeah.
Right? It may get lonely up there. So most people are in the valley because they're still trying to struggle to figure out where they want to go in life, what they want to do in life. So it is our job that when we do get up to the mountain, how high that mountain may be, you go back down in the valley. And even if it's going to bring out some things about you that you're not too fond of, like you said, a lesson will be learned. A lesson learned, not just for you, but the influence of the circle that you have.
And we quite often want to avoid the shadows or avoid the valleys. But if I know for me personally, and I'm sure for you too, when you look back on your life, they're the times that really, really shape you into who you are. Like, there's so much power in the down times, or the bad times, like, if you were, there's just a huge sense of empowerment of who you become in the process of those lessons. And that's also how you expand your container to hold your vision. You have to be willing to love both. And when you love both, you win the game, because when you can see value in the highs and lows, like, you're unstoppable.
That is awesome. It's like there's a saying that you learn to abase and abound, and what it means is that You learn how to live with much, and you learn how to live with little.
Mm.
And when you learn how to live with much and you learn how to live with little, you can go beyond what makes you happy based on circumstance.
Mm. Beautiful. All right. Well, I could speak to you all day, but
Definitely.
what is like on parting words? What would you like to leave my tribe with?
Make sure you follow her everywhere she goes. This lady's amazing. She's special. I'm so honored to even be a guest on her show. Um, but most importantly, take every moment that you have and cherish it.
Mm.
You don't know how much time you have. And because you don't, allow yourself to be successful. Allow yourself to be the best version of yourself. Get a coach. Don't do it alone.
Yes.
There's so many resources out there that can help you get you where you need to go. Um, Keep following not just your dreams, but keep developing your vision. And again, I'll say those three words again: your identity, your passion, and your purpose.
Mm.
Continue to build those three areas up, and I promise you, you will live a life of fulfillment. It will not just be the fame and fortune, but it will be fulfillment. You will feel like, wow, I get it. I know my purpose in this life.
Mm.
And so that's what I leave with the tribe. That continue to follow you, of course, because you're amazing. I'm going to continue to follow you and learn things. And, what did you say? The edges. What was that
Lean
term
into the
again?
edges. Yeah.
Lean into the. Oh man, that's awesome. I'm going to lean into some edges tonight. I don't know what it's going to be. Um, but also, as you're listening to this, take that notebook, take your notes on your iPhone or whatever it may be, write it down and put life action to it.
Mm.
Write it down and put life action to it and watch it work.
Mm. What you just said about the little moments before, that's actually something I was just thinking in the car yesterday, is how often that we, when you look back at those moments that you cherish so much in life, they're often not the big ones. They're often these little, at the time, seemingly insignificant moments that all build, that make your life. And I think that, we're so often looking ahead or looking behind that we forget that this is the only moment there is. Like, now is everything, and always to just cherish the moment you're in, even if it feels like it's not good enough or not big enough or not grand enough or whatever it is you're chasing or waiting for. Like, you don't know the value that this moment may have to you down the track. So really just staying present, I think, is so important. Just enjoying the ride. Like, that's like something I've learned this year as well, is just like enjoying the journey. I just sometimes, like, even when things happen that would have stressed me out or like bugged me out so hard last year, I just laugh at now. Like, it's just all a part of the journey. You've just got to just laugh and enjoy it all.
Yeah, enjoy, and you can remind yourself by this thing that we do, DSTST.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stress the small things.
Yes. Will it matter in 5 years? No. Okay. Will it matter tomorrow? Probably not. Okay, don't worry about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Like, you are just so full of light and the most beautiful, supportive, loving, grounded energy. And I really, really, really appreciate you taking the time to drop in with me. And I'm so excited to share you with everybody, because you just hold so much wisdom and value, and you just have a way of delivering it. Like, everything you say just really lands on my heart. So I know that other people will feel the same too. So thank you for all your support and for being my first ever guest.
Oh, I'm so excited. So when
Yeah.
you become big and famous, just remember me. All I
Likewise.
want you to do is invite me to one of your,
To P.
events.
Diddy's
That's
white party.
it.
No, I'm joking. So obviously you
Thank
said
you.
before, like, getting a coach is hugely important, and I know that you do coaching. So if people want to work with you or they want to connect with you more, how can people find you?
You can go to my website at wardoфencouragement.com. That's wordsoфencouragement.com, but my last name Ward.
Yeah. I'll drop the link in the description.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Or the easiest way is to follow me on Instagram. at Chris Ward Jr., ChrisWardJr. And I answer questions right in the DM. So it's one of those things where you don't have to go to my website. I just want you to have access to me. And I actually have a client tomorrow that I'm working with through FaceTime. So whether it's Google Hangout or Skype or FaceTime, I'm here for the people.
Yeah, and there's such a value in that support too. So if you're on the fence, like truly invest in yourself, and yeah, there's no greater investment than yourself. So really just take that in and yeah, connect with Chris. He's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tribe. And listen, remember, continue to follow this one right here. She's special. She is special. And I don't use that word often, but you are special. You have put so much love into my heart. The breakthrough junkie, I focus on being a breakthrough junkie as much as I can. And I wish nothing but the best for you. And peace and love.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's going to make me cry.
The tears.
Yeah. Thank you.
You enjoy your day.
You too.